Have you ever wondered why, despite all your efforts to improve your life, you still feel stuck in the same patterns of struggle and limitation? You're about to discover something that could completely transform your understanding of who you really are, and it has nothing to do with positive thinking, affirmations, or trying harder. What if I told you that the greatest spiritual teachers throughout history understood a secret about identity that most people miss entirely? Smith Wigglesworth, one of the most profound spiritual voices of our time, uncovered a truth so powerful that it literally dissolved the problems people had been fighting against for years. And today, we're going to explore exactly what he discovered about the two simple words that hold the key to everything: I am. But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of our future videos. Here's what most people don't realize. Every single day, you're declaring your identity through the words that follow, I am. When you say, I am tired, I am struggling, I am not good enough, you're not just describing your current state, you're actually reinforcing a false identity that keeps you trapped in limitation. Has this ever happened to you? You wake up, determined to change, to be different, to finally break free from old patterns, but by the end of the day you find yourself right back where you started? The reason this cycle continues isn't because you lack willpower or because there's something wrong with you. It's because you've been identifying with the wrong I. Smith Wigglesworth spent years studying this phenomenon, and what he discovered was absolutely revolutionary. He realized that when people say I am, they're almost always referring to their human personality, their circumstances, their body, their emotions, their past failures and wounds. But this isn't the true I at all. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover might surprise you. It might even challenge everything you've believed about yourself up until this moment. Wigglesworth pointed to something far deeper, something that exists beyond all your human experiences and conditions. He revealed that there's a divine consciousness within you right now, an infinite awareness that has never been touched by any problem, any limitation, any fear you've ever experienced. This isn't just beautiful spiritual philosophy. When people truly understood what Wigglesworth was pointing to, their lives transformed in ways that seemed almost miraculous. Chronic illnesses disappeared, relationships healed, financial struggles resolved. But here's the key. These weren't miracles in the traditional sense. They were simply the natural result of aligning with truth, of recognizing who you really are beneath all the layers of false identification. So what exactly did Smith Wigglesworth discover about the true meaning of I am? And more importantly, how can this understanding transform your life starting today? The revelation that Smith Wigglesworth had was so profound because it completely reversed the way most people approach their problems. Think about it for a moment. When you face a challenge, what's your first instinct? Most of us immediately start looking for solutions. We analyze, we strategize, we push, we effort our way through. We believe that if we just work hard enough, think positively enough, or pray intensely enough, we can overcome whatever obstacle stands in our way. But Wigglesworth discovered something that turned this entire approach upside down. He realized that the problems we're trying so desperately to solve aren't actually real in the way we think they are. Now, before you dismiss this as some kind of spiritual bypass or denial of reality, stay with me here. What Wigglesworth meant was that our problems exist because we've identified with a false sense of self. We've convinced ourselves that we are our circumstances, our body, our bank account, our relationships, our past mistakes. And from that place of false identification, we see problems everywhere. The healing, the transformation, the breakthrough, none of it comes from fixing those problems. It comes from recognizing who you truly are beneath all of that. The moment you stop identifying with your human conditions and recognize that I am is actually God consciousness expressing through you, something extraordinary happens. The problems don't get solved through your effort. They dissolve. They simply fade away like shadows disappearing when light is turned on. Because that's all they ever were. Shadows cast by your false identification with temporary appearances. This is where the real journey begins, where genuine transformation becomes possible. Now I want to go even deeper into this hidden truth because this is where most spiritual seekers make a critical error that keeps them trapped even while they're trying to break free. You see, many people discover the power of I am statements and immediately start using them as tools to change their human experience. They stand in front of the mirror and declare, I am healthy, I am wealthy, I am successful, and there's nothing inherently wrong with positive affirmations. They can shift your mindset and create some impact in your life. But Wigglesworth pointed to something far more fundamental, something that goes beyond the surface-level use of words. The mistake is subtle but devastating. These seekers are still believing they're separate from God, separate from the source of all good. They're using I am statements as a technique to get something they don't have, to become something they're not yet. They're still operating from lack, from the consciousness of needing to demonstrate or prove their worth. The true understanding that Wigglesworth revealed is this: the I, the awareness, the consciousness that says I am, is not your human personality trying to improve itself. It's the same divine consciousness that spoke through Moses at the burning bush, the same Christ awareness that Jesus recognized as his true identity and yours. This isn't about becoming spiritual or manifesting a better human life. This is about recognizing what has always been true, what is true right now in this very moment, regardless of what appears to be happening in your external world. Write in the comments, I'm ready to see this truth, if this revelation is beginning to shift something inside you. So how do you actually practice this? How do you move from understanding this intellectually to experiencing it as your living reality? Wigglesworth taught something so simple that most people overlook it completely. He said that instead of thinking, I am sick or I am lacking or I am struggling, you simply rest in the pure awareness of I am without adding anything to it. That's it. No affirmations, no visualizations, no mental gymnastics, just pure awareness. This might sound almost too simple to be powerful, but here's what happens behind the scenes when you practice this. Every time you add something after I am, you're creating a limited identity. You're boxing yourself into a temporary condition and declaring it as who you are. But when you rest in just I am, without any additions, you're touching something infinite, something that has no boundaries, no limitations, no problems. You're allowing divine consciousness to simply be itself as you, without trying to change, fix, or improve anything about your human experience. This is radically different from the way most of us have been taught to approach life. We've been conditioned to believe that transformation comes through doing, through effort, through making things happen. But Wigglesworth discovered that real transformation comes through being, through resting in what already is. It's not about becoming spiritual. You already are spiritual consciousness. It's not about manifesting abundance. You already are the source of all abundance. It's not about healing yourself. Your true nature has never been sick. The journey Wigglesworth invites us on is a journey of recognition, not achievement. And this recognition reveals something that changes everything about how you relate to life. When you truly understand I am, you discover there is no separation between you and the infinite source of all good. Think about what this means for a moment. Every single time you've experienced lack, fear, or limitation, you were believing in a lie about your true nature. You were accepting the illusion that you could somehow be separate from wholeness, separate from the very consciousness that creates and sustains all of existence. But separation is impossible. How could a wave be separate from the ocean? How could a ray of light be separate from the sun? In the same way, you cannot be separate from the divine consciousness that is your true identity. The feeling of separation, the experience of being cut off from source, from love, from abundance, all of it was just a case of mistaken identity. You believed you were the small, limited human self struggling to survive in a hostile world. But that was never true, not even for a single moment. This revelation has a profound impact on how you navigate your daily decisions and challenges. When you know yourself as inseparable from the infinite, you stop living from a consciousness of need. You stop grasping, striving, forcing, not because you become passive or indifferent, but because you recognize that what you are seeking you already are. The peace you want is the peace that you are. The love you desire is the love that you are. The abundance you're chasing is the abundance that flows naturally from the consciousness of wholeness. Now let me share with you what happens when people actually begin to live from this understanding, because the real-world results are absolutely remarkable. If this is resonating with something deep inside you, write in the comments, "I am wholeness." There was a woman who came to one of Smith Wigglesworth's classes, and her story perfectly illustrates the power of this shift in consciousness. She had been battling chronic illness for years, the kind that drains not just your body but your entire spirit. She had tried everything, every medical treatment, every alternative therapy, every spiritual technique she could find. She had spent thousands of dollars, countless hours, immeasurable energy searching for healing, and nothing worked. Nothing changed. She was exhausted, broken, and honestly, she had almost given up hope. When she met Wigglesworth, she expected him to offer her another technique, another practice, another thing to try, but instead he looked at her with profound compassion and said something that completely shattered her worldview. He told her that the divine consciousness that she is has never been sick and can never be sick. He wasn't denying her physical symptoms or dismissing her suffering. He was pointing her to a truth that existed beyond all of that. Within weeks, something remarkable happened. Her symptoms began to fade. But here's what's even more extraordinary. The physical healing, as wonderful as it wasn't even the most significant transformation. Her entire relationship with life shifted. She stopped being a victim of her circumstances. She stopped living in fear and limitation. She discovered an unshakable peace that didn't depend on her body being healthy or her life being perfect. This is the hidden truth that most people miss when they hear about spiritual healing. The healing isn't just about the body getting better. It's about recognizing who you are beyond the body, beyond the condition, beyond the temporary appearance. And when that recognition happens, the physical symptoms often dissolve naturally because you've stopped feeding them with your belief and identification. Now, you might be thinking this only applies to health issues, but the impact of understanding I am extends into every area of life. There was a businessman who attended Wigglesworth's teachings, and his journey reveals something fascinating about how this consciousness shift affects success and achievement. For years, this man had been driven by fear. Fear of failure, fear of not being enough, fear of losing everything he had worked so hard to build. He was successful by worldly standards, but inside, he was miserable. The constant stress, the endless worry about competition, the sleepless nights obsessing over decisions and outcomes. It was crushing him. When he discovered what Wigglesworth was teaching about I am, he started a completely different approach to his life and business. Each morning, before diving into emails or meetings or strategies, he would simply rest in the pure awareness of I am, without any additions. No affirmations about success, no visualizations of outcomes, just resting in that divine consciousness. And the results were nothing short of revolutionary. He began making decisions from a place of peace instead of fear, from abundance instead of lack. His entire mindset transformed. But here's what shocked him most. His business didn't just improve financially, it became a source of genuine joy instead of constant struggle. The behind-the-scenes revelation here is that when you operate from the consciousness of wholeness, you naturally express creativity, wisdom, and clarity. You don't have to force these qualities or work to develop them. They're the natural expression of your true identity, when it's not blocked by fear and false beliefs. His competitors noticed something different about him, but couldn't quite put their finger on what had changed. His employees felt it too. There was a quality of presence and calm that seemed to affect everyone around him. This is what happens when you stop trying to get something from life and start giving from the overflow of what you already are. The journey from struggle to ease, from fear to peace, from limitation to freedom, it's not about acquiring something new. It's about recognizing what's always been true. Put down in the comments, I choose peace over fear, if you're ready to make this shift. What's equally powerful is how this understanding transforms our most intimate relationships. There was a student of Wigglesworth's who had been married for 20 years, and if you had asked her, she would have told you that her marriage was dying. Not in some dramatic, explosive way, but in that quiet, heartbreaking erosion that happens when two people slowly become strangers, living under the same roof. She felt unloved, unseen, unappreciated. She had tried everything to change her husband. Subtle hints, direct confrontations, marriage counseling, self-help books. Nothing worked because she was operating from a fundamental misunderstanding. She was trying to get love from her husband instead of being the love that she already was. Can you see the difference? It's subtle, but absolutely crucial. When Wigglesworth helped her recognize that she is divine consciousness expressing as love itself, her entire approach shifted. She stopped relating to her husband from her wounded ego, from her accumulated grievances and unmet expectations. Instead, she started seeing him as the divine consciousness that he truly is, beneath all his human personality patterns and defenses. Hit that like button if this message landed for you. It helps others who are ready for this truth find their way here. And here's what happened. Their relationship transformed. Not because he suddenly became a different person or started doing all the things she had been wanting him to do for years. He didn't change at all, at least not at first. What changed was her consciousness, her way of relating to him. She discovered that love isn't something you receive from another person to fill your emptiness. Love is what you are. And when you express from that truth, everything shifts. The impact was so profound that her husband, without even understanding what was happening, began responding differently. The defensive walls he had built started coming down. The distance between them began to close. Not through effort or manipulation, but through the natural power of one person living from truth. Now let me share something even more challenging, because this is where Wigglesworth's teachings reveal their true depth. There was a mother who came to him absolutely devastated. Her teenage son was caught in the grip of addiction, and she was watching helplessly as his life spiraled out of control. Every parent's worst nightmare. She had tried intervention, therapy, tough love, unconditional support. Nothing seemed to reach him. She was consumed by worry, fear, and guilt, constantly obsessing about what she could have done differently. Wigglesworth taught her something that completely transformed her approach. Instead of seeing her son as broken, as a problem that needed fixing, she learned to rest in the truth that the divine consciousness expressing as her son was perfect and whole, right now, in this very moment, regardless of his behavior or choices. This wasn't denial of his very real struggles. This was seeing beyond the temporary appearance to the eternal truth. She stopped trying to control his journey and started holding a space of pure recognition that beneath the addiction, beneath the confusion, beneath all the destructive patterns, there was divine consciousness temporarily forgetting its true nature. The shift in her was palpable. She stopped hovering, stopped lecturing, stopped radiating anxiety and fear every time she looked at him. And something remarkable happened. Within months, without any pressure or intervention from her, he began seeking help. He started making different decisions, rebuilding his life from the inside out. The hidden truth here is that when you stop seeing someone as their problem and start recognizing their divine nature, you create an atmosphere where their own awakening can naturally emerge. This principle works in every relationship. With your children, your parents, your colleagues, your friends. When you consistently see others as divine consciousness rather than as human problems, you become a presence of peace and possibility in their lives. Write in the comments, "I see the divine in others," if you're beginning to understand this powerful shift. But here's where this understanding becomes truly practical, where it moves from inspiring concept to lived reality. Wigglesworth taught a simple practice that you can implement right now, today, in the middle of your ordinary life. Throughout your day, you're constantly making declarations about yourself. I am tired. I am worried. I am frustrated. I am overwhelmed. These statements feel so automatic, so true in the moment, that you probably don't even notice you're making them. But each one is a decision, a choice about which identity you're going to inhabit. What Wigglesworth suggested is this: the next time you catch yourself saying, "I am tired," or "I am anxious," pause for just a moment and ask yourself a simple question. Who is the I that claims to be these things? This isn't some abstract philosophical exercise. When you actually do this, something fascinating happens. You start to notice that these conditions, tiredness, worry, frustration, they come and go like weather patterns. But the I am that observes them, that is aware of them, never changes. You are not your fluctuating emotions. You are not your temporary physical states. You are the unchanging awareness in which all these experiences appear and disappear. Think about it this way. When you were 5 years old, you had thoughts and feelings. When you were 15, completely different thoughts and feelings. Now, decades later, your entire mental and emotional landscape has transformed countless times. But hasn't there been something constant throughout all of it? Some awareness that has witnessed every stage, every change, every experience? That awareness is what you truly are. That's the I am Wigglesworth was pointing to. And it has never been tired, never been worried, never been broken by any experience. This daily practice of recognition gradually shifts your center of gravity from the changing conditions to the unchanging consciousness. You stop being tossed around by every thought and emotion that passes through. You discover a stability, a peace that doesn't depend on circumstances being a certain way. And from that stability, life becomes something entirely different. Now there's another revelation that Wigglesworth uncovered that transforms even the simplest moments of your day into profound spiritual experiences. He discovered that gratitude is not what most people think it is. We've been taught that gratitude is about being thankful for what we receive, about acknowledging the good things that come to us from outside ourselves. But Wigglesworth saw something much deeper happening behind the scenes of genuine gratitude. When you feel truly grateful, not the forced, obligatory kind of gratitude, but that spontaneous rush of appreciation that comes when you witness a beautiful sunset, or feel love for someone dear to you, or experience a moment of unexpected joy. What's actually happening in that moment? You're not a separate person receiving something from outside yourself. Your divine consciousness is recognizing itself in all its expressions. You're appreciating the infinite creativity of your own being appearing as your experience. This completely transforms what gratitude means and how you practice it. It's not about keeping a gratitude journal to make yourself feel better or to attract more good things into your life, though those benefits might happen naturally. It's about recognizing that what you appreciate and the consciousness that appreciates are one unified reality. There's no separation between the beauty you see and the awareness that sees it. They're both expressions of the same divine consciousness that you are. When you begin to experience gratitude this way, something profound shifts in how you move through life. You stop feeling like a separate individual trying to get things from the world to make yourself happy. You start recognizing yourself in everything you encounter. Put down in the comments, I am grateful for this recognition if you're experiencing this shift right now. This understanding has profound implications for one of the areas where most people feel the most stress and limitation, their relationship with money and abundance. Wigglesworth taught something radical about prosperity that goes against everything our culture tells us. He said that the divine I am that you are is infinite abundance itself. Not that you can become abundant or that you need to manifest abundance, but that you already are the source of all supply. Most people approach money from a consciousness of lack. They look at their bank account and feel anxious. They make decisions based on fear of not having enough. They believe they need to get abundance from somewhere outside themselves, from a job, from an investment, from luck, from someone else. But this entire mindset is built on the false belief that you are separate from the source of all good. And from that separation consciousness, you can work yourself to exhaustion and still feel like you're always struggling, always just barely getting by. When you rest in the truth that you are infinite abundance expressing in form, something shifts at a fundamental level. You stop grasping. You stop hoarding. You stop making decisions from fear of scarcity. Instead, you find yourself naturally guided to right action from a consciousness of overflow. This doesn't mean money falls from the sky without any effort on your part. It means you're inspired to serve, to create, to contribute from a place of fullness rather than need. And life responds to that consciousness in ways that your anxious, striving mind could never orchestrate. The impact of this shift is tangible and real. People report opportunities, appearing that they never could have predicted, doors opening that were previously closed, creative solutions emerging to financial challenges that seemed impossible. Not because they're using I am as a magic formula to manipulate reality, but because they've aligned with the truth of what they are, Abundance flows naturally when you stop blocking it with beliefs about limitation. Now, I want to address something that might be troubling you as you hear all of this. You might be thinking, this sounds beautiful in theory, but what about when real problems hit? What about when I'm facing a genuine crisis? When everything is falling apart around me? This is where Wigglesworth's teaching reveals its ultimate practical power, because he wasn't offering some fair-weather spirituality that only works when life is going well. He taught that problems, challenges, crises, these are actually opportunities to deepen your realization of your true spiritual identity. When everything in your human experience seems to be falling apart, that's precisely the moment to rest in the truth that the divine consciousness you are is never in crisis. Never. Not once in all of eternity has your true nature been threatened, disturbed, or broken by any circumstance. This isn't about pretending problems don't exist or spiritually bypassing real difficulties. It's about discovering an unshakable foundation that exists beneath and beyond all changing conditions. The eternal presence that you are remains, peaceful and whole regardless of what appears to be happening in the temporary world of form. When you can access that presence in the midst of chaos, you discover a peace that literally makes no sense to the rational mind. How can you be at peace when everything is falling apart? Because you've stopped identifying with what's falling apart. You've recognized what can never fall apart. Behind the scenes of every crisis is an invitation to go deeper into truth, to let go of another layer of false identification, to discover that who you really are cannot be touched by any storm. This is where your journey becomes truly transformative, where understanding becomes lived experience. Write in the comments, I am unshakable, if you're ready to meet life from this consciousness. But here's something you need to understand as you embark on this journey of recognizing your true identity. There will be days, maybe even weeks, when you completely forget everything we've talked about. You'll get swept up in human drama, caught in worry, lost in identification with your problems and circumstances. And when this happens, you might feel like you've failed, like you're not spiritual enough, like you're doing something wrong. Wigglesworth addressed this directly because he knew it was one of the biggest obstacles people face. He taught that forgetting your true identity and getting caught in the human experience is completely natural. It's part of the process, not a sign that you're failing. The ego, this false sense of separate self, has been running the show for so long that it has deep grooves, established patterns, automatic responses. You're not going to override decades of conditioning overnight. And that's perfectly okay. The transformation isn't about never forgetting. It's about how you respond when you realize you've forgotten. The key is not to judge yourself, not to make it mean something about your worth or your spiritual progress. Instead, you simply and gently return to the awareness of I am. That's it. No drama, no self-criticism, no elaborate rituals to get back on track. Just a gentle return, like coming home. And here's what Wigglesworth discovered. Every single time you return, you strengthen this understanding. Every time you remember your true identity after having forgotten it, you deepen the groove of truth. It's exactly like learning to play a musical instrument. At first, you have to consciously think about every note, every finger placement, every movement. It feels awkward and forced. But with practice, something shifts. The music begins to play itself through you. Your fingers find the right notes without conscious effort. The melody flows naturally. In the same way, living from the consciousness of I am becomes increasingly natural the more you practice this gentle returning. The impact of this patient, compassionate approach to your own awakening cannot be overstated. Most people give up on spiritual practice because they set impossible standards for themselves. They think they should be peaceful all the time, conscious all the time, living from truth every single moment, and when they inevitably fall short, they conclude that this path isn't for them or that they're not cut out for spiritual growth. But that's just another form of the same perfectionism and self-judgment that kept them trapped in the first place. Now, there's something even deeper that emerges as you continue this journey, and it might surprise you. At some point, often when you least expect it, you'll experience what Wigglesworth called the end of the spiritual search itself. And this is perhaps the most profound transformation of all. You'll suddenly realize, with crystal clarity, that what you've been seeking has been what you are all along, not what you could become, not what you might achieve through enough practice or dedication, but what you already are right now in this very moment. This revelation turns everything upside down. You've spent your whole life believing you were a human being trying to have spiritual experiences, trying to become more spiritual, trying to reach enlightenment or awakening or whatever you wanted to call it. But the hidden truth is the complete opposite. Your spiritual consciousness having a human experience. You've never been anything else. You could never be anything else. It's impossible for you to be separate from divine consciousness because that's what you are, at the most fundamental level of your being. When this recognition really lands, not just as an intellectual concept but as lived experience, something profound happens. The restless seeking that has driven so much of your life simply stops. Put down in the comments. The search is over if you're beginning to feel this shift within yourself. You know, if you've made it all the way here to the end of this video, that tells me something important about you. You're not just casually browsing for entertainment. You're genuinely seeking truth, genuinely ready for transformation. And that readiness is everything. Smith Wigglesworth always said that the teaching finds those who are ready to hear it, and clearly, you're one of those people. If this conversation has opened something in you, if you felt that shift happening as we explored these ideas together, I'd love for you to join our community here. Hit that subscribe button because we dive deep into these transformative teachings regularly. This isn't surface-level motivation or temporary inspiration. This is about fundamental shifts in consciousness that change everything. And I want to continue this journey with you. Leave a comment down below saying, "This message was meant for me." If you feel like this video found you at exactly the right time. I read every single comment, and I love seeing who's walking this path alongside us. Your presence here matters, and your willingness to engage with these ideas creates ripples that extend far beyond what you might imagine. And if this resonated with you, go ahead and hit that like button. It helps this message reach others who are ready for it, who need to hear this truth about their divine identity just like you did. Before you go, there's another video right here that takes this understanding even deeper into practical application. Click and continue with me over there. I think you'll find it's the perfect next step on this journey we're taking together. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your openness, and remember, you are not what you thought you were, you're so much more.